Written by Neil Gaiman. The village of Greenvale was once a picture of tranquility. Nestled amidst rolling hills and vibrant forests, life was simple and peaceful. The air, usually sweet with the scent of wildflowers, turned cold and metallic. A shiver ran down the spines of villagers as a disquiet settled over their hearts. Something was amiss. The once familiar whispers of the wind now carried an unsettling chill. The leaves, once a vibrant emerald, began to wither and turn a sickly yellow. The sun, usually a comforting presence, seemed to dim behind a veil of perpetual dusk. The shadows grew longer, stretching out like grasping claws. A palpable fear seeped into the very soul of Greenvale. Whispers of a malevolent entity spread through the village like wildfire. Children clung to their mothers, their eyes wide with terror. Even the bravest of men felt a tremor of fear course through their veins. The once vibrant laughter of children playing in the fields was replaced by a haunting silence. The villagers listened, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Eldric's voice, raspy with age, pointed towards the withering forest. The once vibrant colours were now muted, drained of life. The river, usually teeming with fish, ran sluggish and dark. These were not natural occurrences, he explained. This was Terra's wrath seeping into the world, poisoning the very essence of life. Days turned into weeks, and the situation in Greenvale worsened. The villagers watched helplessly as their once thriving community was slowly consumed by nature's relentless fury. The skies, once clear and blue, were now perpetually overcast, casting a gloomy shadow over the village. The once gentle streams turned into raging torrents, flooding the fields and tearing apart homes. The water, which had always been a source of life and sustenance, now brought only destruction and despair. Crops were washed away and the fertile soil was left barren and scarred. Trees lashed out with their branches, once offering shade, now transformed into instruments of destruction. The wind howled through the village, uprooting ancient trees and sending them crashing into homes and barns. The very trees that had stood as silent guardians for generations now seemed to turn against the villagers. Animals, usually docile and peaceful, became aggressive and unpredictable. Deer, rabbits, and even birds, which had once coexisted harmoniously with the villagers, now acted with a ferocity that was both alarming and dangerous. It was as if the natural order had been upended and chaos reigned supreme. Wild beasts, their eyes burning with an unnatural light, terrorized the village outskirts. Wolves and bears, driven by some unseen force, prowled the edges of the village, their howls and roars echoing through the night. The villagers dared not venture out after dark for fear of encountering these fearsome creatures. The villagers, trapped in a nightmare, huddled in their homes, fear their only companion. The once bustling village square was now eerily silent as people stayed indoors, praying for an end to the torment. The sense of community that had always been their strength was now replaced by isolation and dread. Food became scarce and fear gnawed at their sanity. The villagers rationed what little they had, but it was never enough. Hunger became a constant companion, and the once joyful mealtimes were now somber affairs, filled with worry and uncertainty. The once peaceful rhythm of life had been shattered, replaced by a cacophony of destruction and despair. The sounds of laughter and song were replaced by the cries of the desperate and the wails of the grieving. The village, once a haven of tranquility, had become a place of sorrow and suffering. The air itself crackled with a strange energy, a tangible manifestation of terror's rage. It was as if the very atmosphere was charged with anger, and every breath the villagers took was filled with a sense of impending doom. The once familiar landscape now felt alien and hostile. The very ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble with her suppressed fury. Earthquakes, though minor, were frequent, shaking the foundations of their homes and adding to the sense of instability. The villagers could feel the anger of the earth goddess in every tremor, a constant reminder of their precarious situation. The villagers, desperate for salvation, turned to Eldric for guidance. Eldric, the village elder, was a man of wisdom and experience, and they hoped he could provide some answers or solutions. They gathered around him, their faces etched with worry and fear, seeking solace in his words. But the old man could offer them little comfort. His eyes, once filled with the light of knowledge, now reflected the same despair that gripped the village. He spoke of ancient prophecies and the wrath of the goddess, but his words did little to ease their suffering. The villagers left his presence with heavy hearts, their hopes dimming. The legend spoke of a hero, a chosen one who would rise to challenge the wrath of the goddess. This hero, it was said, would possess the courage and strength to stand against Terra's fury and restore balance to the land. The villagers clung to this legend, hoping against hope that it would come true. But no such hero had emerged. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of the savior they so desperately needed. The villagers began to wonder if the legend was just a myth, a story told to give them false hope in times of despair. Hope, once a flickering flame in the hearts of the villagers, threatened to be extinguished entirely. The weight of their suffering was almost too much to bear, and the darkness of their situation seemed impenetrable. Yet even in the deepest despair, a small spark of hope remained, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Deep within the heart of the forest, untouched by the encroaching darkness, lived a young man named Arin. The forest was his sanctuary, a place where the troubles of the outside world seemed to vanish, replaced by the soothing sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds. Raised by a hermit who taught him the secrets of the natural world, Arin possessed a deep connection with nature. He learned to identify every plant, understand the behavior of animals, and even predict the weather by observing the subtle changes in the environment. He could feel the pulse of the forest, hear the whispers of the wind, and speak with animals as though they were kin. The trees seemed to sway in rhythm with his heartbeat, and the streams sang songs that only he could understand. Arin S2. The forest speaks to me in ways words cannot describe. It is as if the very essence of life flows through me, connecting me to every living being around. The hermit, a wise old woman named Ilara, had foreseen the coming darkness. She had visions of shadows creeping through the woods, corrupting everything they touched. She had trained Arin, honing his skills, preparing him for a destiny he could not yet comprehend. Every lesson, every piece of wisdom she imparted was a step towards a future that was both uncertain and inevitable. One evening, as the forest around them trembled with Terra's fury, Ilara called Arin to her side. The sky was dark, and the wind howled through the trees, carrying with it a sense of impending doom. Her voice, usually filled with warmth, was grave, her eyes reflecting the encroaching darkness. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, a prelude to the revelation that was about to unfold. Ilara S1. Arin, come here, my child. I have something important to tell you. The time has come for you to learn the truth about your destiny. She told Arin of the ancient prophecy of the goddess consumed by rage and of the hero destined to confront her. The prophecy spoke of a time when the balance of nature would be threatened and only a chosen one could restore harmony. She placed a weathered hand on his shoulder, her touch firm yet gentle. It was a gesture of both comfort and responsibility, a silent acknowledgement of the burden he was about to bear. Ilara S1, you, Arin, are the chosen one. The fate of Greenvale, the fate of the world, rests on your shoulders. You must be strong, for the journey ahead will be fraught with challenges. Arin S2, I understand, Ilara. I will do whatever it takes. Though fear gripped his heart, determination shone in his eyes. He knew that his bond with the forest would guide him, and the wisdom of Ilara would be his beacon in the darkness. Armed with Ilara's wisdom and a heart filled with a mixture of fear and determination, Arin set out on his perilous journey. The weight of his mission pressed heavily on his shoulders, but he knew that turning back was not an option. Every step he took was a step closer to either salvation or doom. His path was fraught with danger. The forest, once his sanctuary, had become a treacherous labyrinth. The familiar trails were now twisted and overgrown, as if the very land itself sought to ensnare him. Each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs set his heart racing, a constant reminder of the peril that lurked in every shadow. trees lashed out with their branches, their bark alive with terror's rage. The once gentle giants of the forest now seemed to harbor a malevolent spirit, their limbs reaching out like the claws of a beast. Arin had to stay vigilant, dodging and weaving to avoid their wrathful strikes. Animals, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light, attacked with feral ferocity. Creatures that once fled at the sight of humans, now charged with a terrifying intensity. It was as if terror's anger had infected every living being in the forest, turning them into relentless adversaries. Arin S2. This forest? It's like a different world now. The transformation was so profound that it felt as though he had stepped into a nightmare. The air was thick with tension, and the once soothing sounds of nature were replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional growl or screech. But I will not be deterred. Arin's resolve was unshakable. He knew that the fate of Greenvale rested on his shoulders, and he could not afford to falter. Every challenge he faced only steeled his determination further. Guided by his connection to nature and his unwavering courage, Arin pressed onward. He drew strength from the memories of his loved ones and the teachings of Ilara, using them as a beacon to light his way through the darkness. He calmed raging rivers with a whispered word, soothed the anger of tormented creatures, and navigated treacherous paths with an almost supernatural grace. His bond with nature allowed him to perform feats that seemed impossible, turning potential disasters into manageable obstacles. Along his journey, he encountered others who had been touched by terror's wrath. Their stories were harrowing, filled with loss and suffering. Each encounter was a stark reminder of the stakes of his mission. Villagers, driven from their homes, their faces etched with despair. They looked to Arin with a mixture of hope and desperation, seeing in him a potential savior. Their plight fueled his determination, adding a personal dimension to his quest. Animals, twisted and corrupted by the goddess's rage, their eyes filled with a chilling emptiness. These once majestic creatures were now shadows of their former selves, their suffering a testament to the extent of terror's wrath. Arin S2, the suffering, it's everywhere. The weight of the devastation he witnessed was almost overwhelming, but it also ignited a fierce resolve within him. He could not stand by and watch as his world was torn apart. I must put an end to this. Each encounter strengthened Arin's resolve. He knew that he was the only one who could stand against terror's wrath and restore balance to the forest. Each encounter strengthened Arin's resolve. He saw the devastation wrought by terror's anger, the suffering inflicted upon the innocent. The sight of the once vibrant forest, now marred by chaos and destruction, was a constant reminder of the urgency of his mission. He saw the devastation wrought by terror's anger, the suffering inflicted upon the innocent. The sight of the once vibrant forest, now marred by chaos and destruction, was a constant reminder of the urgency of his mission. He knew with a growing certainty that he had to stop her, no matter the cost. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Arin's spirit was unyielding. He was prepared to face any challenge, to endure any hardship, to save his home. Arin S2. I will save Greenvale. The words were a vow, a promise to himself and to all those who depended on him. He would not rest until the forest was restored and the suffering ended. I will save them all. With each step, Arin's resolve grew stronger. He was not just fighting for himself, but for every living being in Greenvale. The journey was long and arduous, but he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, driven by a purpose greater than himself.